Welcome to the inaugural session of Know Your Alumni. This is among one among the many initiatives being planned by the TNN Puducherry chapter to add value to our alumni and to make the bonding among the alumni stronger. Our alma mater is, of course, very dear to all of us. Also dear to us are the many alumni who passed out and who gone on to make a mark in diverse fields. The aim of this series is to bring before you a diverse set of MNIT alumni who are either role models or have gone on to have trodden unconventional paths. They will take us along their journey today and in the sessions to come. Therefore, the effort, the blood, sweat, tears, the thrills and spills which have catapulted them to where they are today. Without much ado, let me now hand over to Mukundan to introduce the dramatis personae of the day. Over to you, Mukundan. Thank you.
Yeah, I welcome the chief guest today, who is Mrs. Seema Agarwal. She is a 1990 batch of IPS, Tamil Nadu cadre, and from MREC, presently MNIT. She is 82-87 batch. She graduated from electronics, and she is an IPS for 31 years. She has put a very small resume for herself. And our own president, Dr. Indu Rao, she's from 88-92, of course. She said, like many of our old sessions are also got extended, 93. She is a BTech electrical. She is an MBA from US, PhD from Netherlands, postdoctoral from IIM Ahmedabad. And she is now a professor and director at the, prestigious VIT. I pass on the session to Indu and Seema. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a special alumni group at the Tamil Nadu and Puducherry chapter. And I am first of all very thankful and grateful to you for giving us this opportunity. Let me set the context first for today's event. See, back in the 80s, there were two popular professions that emerged. Everybody wanted their son and daughters to be like a doctor or an engineer. There were only 12 regional engineering colleges back then. And those who actually got into the engineering colleges, we used to feel very proud that, and our parents also used to feel very proud of it. So we entered as the innocent and lost students who were only studying and getting into the colleges. But after we actually passed out from the college, we were very fortunate ones. That college, the education, the degree, and whatever we experienced in that campus, it gave us our job, our income, our status, and also the material benefits and comforts that we are carrying with us during our lifetimes. Our alumni, all of us who have joined, we have taken different paths. We have taken public jobs or private jobs or NGOs, business, civil services, education in different fields. But more than that, I myself got my first job as a campus placement from MNIT, MREC, and I owe a lot to the campus. But what is more important is something else that we got during our stay there, or just because we joined that college. And during those times, that particular time was historic, it was premium. Now, if you see the current NEP, people can change college after 2 years or 3 years or 1 year. But for us, we were born into a new family, and that campus became a new family because we were born as engineers in that campus. We were born as, in our own families, the biological parents, but as an engineer, we were born on that campus. And that campus gave us a new family, which is, I think, even more than the material benefits or the status or other things that we got from that place. And I want to put this in record during our inaugural session on Know Your Alumni, because the philosophy behind starting this Know Your series is that a particular family that we all belong to has united recently. The technology advancements have made it possible for all of us to meet. And a special thing that belongs to this family is that we were a regional engineering college. So the experience that we got was that people from different states, different cultures, different backgrounds, they all came to the campus without we even knowing about it. I mean, we consciously or unconsciously imbibed that competency and that adaptability to live with cultures from different parts of the country. Our country is known for its unity and diversity, and all that national integration was happening right there on the campus. We were imbibing those values, and today if you see, people came from different parts of the country to study on that campus and are working today in different parts of the country. It is just Tamil Nadu Pondicherry chapter is a great example. You see our seniors, they have nurtured such an excellent environment, and today it is an epitome of the diversity and inclusion that we are demonstrating today in this event. When I came to Tamil Nadu last year, I'm very thankful, and I'm in awe of the people who are here doing this whole exercise of keeping the alumni together. So when I came here, I came to know about Mrs. Seema Agarwal, and she is from 82 to 87 batch. I went to the college in 88 to 93 batch. And I said, well, I don't know her. See, we knew most of the people who are from our batches. And then I wanted to know about her. And I didn't want to know about her only because she's a high profile IPS officer. I wanted to know about her because she's my alumni. And that is how this term was coined, know your alumni. So I said, I want to know about her. I think everybody should know about her. And there are so many more alumni all around the country who are so well established now that we should all know about our alumni. And that is how this term was coined, know your alumni. Today in this inaugural event of the Know Your Alumni, on behalf of all of us present here, Seema Di, ma'am, we welcome you. We extend a heartfelt welcome. We thank you for giving your precious time, joining us today, and we appreciate you for all your contribution to the nation and the services. With permission of all of you, I think we'll begin the conversation. Seema Di, first of all, you passed out, that time. Were you living in a hostel, Di?
Yes, Indu. First of all, my good evening to everyone. It is so nice to get connected to the past, to the roots, because somehow for me, the roots were really left behind. So I am very well connected, but then, where is Rajasthan, Jaipur, and MNIT or MREC? That is, we know it as MREC, and where is Tamil Nadu and police? So it's like my life took quite a, some kind of a tangential, some turn, and I am here. So it's far away physically. So it's nice to get connected. Yes, I was, though my parents, they have lived in Rajasthan, but at the time of admission to the college, we were in Udaipur. So I came and stayed in the hostel for 2 years. Afterwards, my father got transferred to Jaipur itself. And then from third year onwards, I became a day scholar.
Excellent. Please tell us something about your college life, both the college life as well as the hostel life. I mean, this is amazing, and we are very proud of you that that time when there were hardly any girls in the college. I remember when I joined, we were 25 girls combining the first year to fifth year. We used to be fifth year then, extending, but we were 25 in all across all branches, all the years put together. You were much before me. How many girls were there?
Yeah, actually now when I look back, it looks very far away. So, and we came after the 11th standard to the college. I think ours was the last batch which got admission after the 11th. And from the next year onwards, it became 10+2. So, and ours was the last batch of 5 years too. So we had a 5-year batch and a 4-year batch. And when I now look back, I wonder, because at that time, of course, not many girls were going to engineering. But when I entered, it never occurred to me as a fear or something that there might not be many other girls, and how would I survive in the class of so many boys. Or for that matter, as you asked, we were for that time being, we were the highest in our class. That is 6 girls in one batch. In our batch, we were 6. Before our batch, there was only 1 girl, and before that, I think 1, 2, 3. So we might be totally some 10 to 12 girls. That's all. And one was from Iran also. One girl was from Iran. And all of us were allotted 3 staff quarters. That time there was no separate hostel. So it was more like just a family. The food used to come from the boys' hostel in the tiffin boxes. So 3 times one boy will, that is that mess boy we used to call, he will bring the food, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And we just almost lived like a family. So the hostel life was not in that sense any, very formal sort of a life. In fact, when the new hostel was constructed soon after, but I moved, as I told you, I moved to my own house. So that was it. And the living in the hostel gave us the, the bond amongst the girls that the 6 of us, we are very close friends. And I think everyone has done very well with their lives. They are kind of inspiration in their own rights. If you want to know about what we were doing in the college, so, it was, as you said, all of us were very innocent and very simplistic ideas. So the college one went just to study. I used to have this in mind that we have come to the college to study. The parents have sent us here to study and we should study. That was one very single point agenda, simple agenda. And usually, it is considered that in engineering or something, the girls will not be doing very well academically. But incidentally, in our batch, we had a topper of the batch, Alka Rajvanshi, who topped all along till finally, and she topped. And then somewhere I was lagging behind, sometimes second rank, sometimes fourth rank. So it was, very interesting to see that in our class, the boys more, usually they'll say where the girls' merit list starts from. So for us, it was in our batch, the girls were studying very well. And so it was like where the boys' merit list starts from. So it was a very, I would say, I think if we look at it from today's context, a very, very different experience. And we weren't speaking to boys. The girls weren't talking to the boys. I don't know after which year it changed. So we would just go to class, attend the class, do the practicals, take the readings, come back, study, and that's it. So life was as simple as that.
Yeah. Thank you. Good that you shared that. And somehow I fully agree with you. Even I never felt that it was a different thing, that we were few girls. It never appeared that way. The college never allowed, never made us feel that we were doing something different or we were as good as everyone else. But the point later that you made was applicable even while I was there and until I left, that the girls were not speaking to the boys. So that continued at least as long as I was there, and that happened. Tell us something that what happened. You passed out of engineering in '87, and then 1990 you took up the Indian Police Services. What prompted you to do that?
Actually, Indu, from third year onwards, this worry started occurring that what one is going to do after the college. I was under the, I think now when I look back, I had some kind of an independent history that if you are 18, oh no, you are 18 and, you are some kind of half adult, adult, or 21, you are completely an adult and you should not be depending upon your parents. You should not be asking money from them. So what are you going to do after you come out of college? So out of the various options that were available to us, the private sector wasn't very appealing to me. I didn't find myself up to that, kind of a life. Then you could join in the RSEB, which was a very easy option. Or actually, they didn't take me as a TA in the college, that interview took place and all of us appeared, the entire class, and none of us qualified. So it was hilarious, actually. So we used to laugh afterwards that we were rejected as the TAs in the college. And so this thing came and some of us were trying for civil services. In fact, my cousin, my Buaji ka beta, he is little senior to me. He did his engineering from BITS Pilani and he qualified into the civil services and joined IPS in 1988. So he became kind of a, one real exact role model that if you want and you try, you can get it. And since many of my own batchmates were trying, classmates were trying, so somewhere it looked natural to go for that. And somewhere the challenges of civil services, the challenges of public service, or rather I would say the charm of public service, not challenges so much, charm of public service, that drew me towards it. And you can never be sure that you will clear the civil services examination. It is so full of, I would say any big competitive examination is full of uncertainties, and this examination is no different. In fact, you being intelligent, you being talented also doesn't matter. There are several other factors probably that count. So I was fortunate enough to get through it, and I also kept the engineering services as a second option because, somehow I do not know what is the secret. From our college, people write engineering services and they will be there in the merit list. Straight as if there is some, I don't know what connection is there. We never thought that we would not clear the engineering services. So likewise, my class, entire class was there in the engineering services. So civil services, when I wrote first time, I cleared prelims, I cleared mains, and I appeared in interview, but I just did not make it to anywhere, like no rank whatsoever. I didn't pass in the first attempt. But when I looked, and I took electrical engineering and history as my options. That time we were taking 2 options. So when I saw the marks, I saw that I got good marks in electrical engineering. So that was encouraging. I thought because history was new, so that is why I probably didn't do well. If I redo it again, so I could do better. So that inspired me to take one more attempt, and I was fortunate to get through. So then what happened when the rank came, it was somewhere, I think, about 140 or something. So at that rank, you are out of IAS. And there were some kind of persuasions within the family and outside not to take police, but maybe instead to go for, let us say, income tax and other services. But I somewhere felt that, that I could make it into police service. And it was also some kind of, I think, a young woman's, I would say, a daring thing that, let me see what I can do in police. Whereas, I myself know that my basic instincts and my basic temperament does not resemble what we traditionally know as a police officer's temperament. So I decided to join police, and my family naturally supported. That is somehow I'm very fortunate to have a family from the beginning like that. So they allow to make choices because they say you have decided to write, you have worked so hard, you have a right to choose which service you want to take. And I am very happy that I joined IPS.
The congratulations at this point of time for making it to the IPS at that point of time. And we are very happy that you did that. Let me share with all of the audience who is present today that Seema ma'am has held very important positions in the police during her tenure, including the field postings. And she's saying that she didn't have a temperament. She has done it very well. Surviving in the Indian police services for 31 years itself is not easy. We all know that. She was superintendent of police in Erode district for 3 years, and she has done very good work over there. She was superintendent of police in the CBI, Chennai Central Bureau of Investigation. She has been in the Anti-Corruption Bureau. She has been DIG in the Coimbatore range. She has been Inspector General of Police Railways. And she is Additional Director General of Police, State Crime Records Bureau from 2019 until now. I'm having the director's call coming. Shall I take it?
Please.
Hello. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, please join us, no? I sent you the link. Yeah, we've just started. You can just join, sir. Please, it will be motivated. Yeah. You please join, sir. Your few words will really motivate all of us. Seema ma'am is here with us, and all the alumni are here. Please, sir, join. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. So ma'am has been actually holding so many portfolios, and you have done it very gracefully. Even now, I think you have an empanelment to Delhi. Simadi, aisa hai?
Yeah, something that comes now as you grow old and senior. So
She still has 5-6 years left in her service, and we wish the very best for you. We have Director MNIT who is joining us. So can we, once he joins, can we also spotlight him so that he can say a few words? Simadi, is it okay if he speaks?
yeah, please. In fact, after he appears, I also want to say something.
Yes. So. What are you doing at this time? Anything interesting that is going on at this time, please tell us, because not all of us know what happens in the police, and you are right there in the middle of it.
Actually, Indu, this one, I mean, I thought this we could talk little later. If we start from the beginning, like, how I landed up in Tamil Nadu or how it was, because I not only shifted or changed gears as regards my work, I also completely got diverted in my life from Rajasthan. I never actually went out of Rajasthan itself when I was living till 24 years till I joined there.
How did you make this move from the north to south, and
Yes.
what was the
So
process? And
that is what I would like to say first. That is, so it is, if you look at it, it's very interesting that my husband is from Tamil Nadu, Mr. A.K. Vishwanathan, and he's a very, very, I would say, very traditional Tamil person. He was the only one in IPS Academy, who did not know Hindi. And I am the one who has studied in Hindi medium. And in fact, I did not know much of English at that time. In the sense, I wasn't fluent in speaking. So we were all from Hindi medium and, struggling with our spoken English. So I think I improved my English also by talking to him. So when we got married, initially I was allotted to Himachal Pradesh cadre, which was not an issue as regards language or anything. And I was trained there also in Shimla. So after marriage, I changed my cadre to Tamil Nadu. So I just landed up in Tamil Nadu, and Tamil is so different. Obviously, all of you know, because all of you are from here. This chapter is Tamil Nadu Pondicherry chapter. And imagine somebody who doesn't know one word of Tamil, and you are here in Tamil Nadu. Your entire family is Tamil. My mother-in-law doesn't know a word of anything other than Tamil. And some of the relations, they do not know anything other than Tamil. And I do not know one word of Tamil. And I'm supposed to speak to everyone. If I were allotted to Tamil Nadu cadre originally, they would have trained me in Tamil in the academy. But I got a transfer because of the marriage. So it was a very, very, in a way, hilarious situation. Though at that time, it didn't look that hilarious. So, I learned Tamil from everyone, from my driver, from my waiting PC, from my PA, from the maids at home. And sometimes, in police, there will be this wireless communication. And one of the SPs, he would speak only in Tamil. And the wireless communication is where one person speaks and everyone hears, listens. So he will say something, he'll be giving me some instruction in Tamil. And imagine, I just can't understand what he's saying. So all of us, my driver and my PA will all come together and try to understand. They'll try to translate it in between so that I can make out what he's saying. Because you have to respond immediately. Because everyone is waiting, everyone is watching. So such hilarious situations were there. And then slowly I picked up. And initially I would just smile at my mother-in-law, who's a very kind lady. Because that little bit of Tamil that you have learned, you're very scared. So like that. But fortunately, very soon another thing which I would like to highlight it, that didn't deter us from becoming a very close family, and they kind of embracing me or accepting me as their, I can even say, boasting about myself, very favorite daughter-in-law. So Likewise, the food also was obviously entirely different. But then when you come with an open heart and a welcoming heart, I think it's not very difficult. In fact, when I got married, that time my aunt, she came to see us at the railway station in Delhi, and Miri Mami ji. So she advised me just one thing, which was very sound advice. She said, Seema, make sure that you cook whatever your husband likes. So we always had South Indian food cooked in the house, and it never looked to me that it was something, I was eating some different food or something like that. Only later on, when the children became little old, they started going to school, they started liking, paratha, sabji, stuffed paratha and all that, those type of items were introduced. Otherwise, it was this thing. And so I learned Tamil along, and still learning, of course, but then I think now I can speak. If people here are mostly Tamil, I can display a bit of my Tamil knowledge.
Excellent, Di. And we will continue this because we want to know how did you cope up with your work-life balance? How did engineering help you? But currently we have Director MNIT who has just joined us, and he is available for only 5 minutes. So, sir, can you turn on your video, please, sir?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I made him co-host. Sir has complete control. He can turn on his video and audio.
Sir, please, can you turn on?
Namaskar. I think you can hear me now.
Yeah,
Yes.
namaste, sir.
Namaste, namaste. Well, greetings from MNIT Jaipur, all the beautiful people sitting there.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for taking out your time, sir. Thank you so much for gracing this event with your presence, sir.
Yeah.
Really motivating. Thank you.
It's Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, no chapter.
Yes, sir.
Vanakkam.
Welcome, sir.
But anyway, I am from Karnataka, so I can understand my favorite superstar is, of course, Rajnikant. I was planning to bring him to MNIT Jaipur for some students program because one of his co-star is very close friend of my colleague in Surathkal. I am from NITK Surathkal. My KG to PG was in that campus. So 16 I joined here as I had come for the inauguration of Chennai chapter.
Yeah, we all met.
So now MNIT is growing without leaps and bounds. It's growing like anything because this time I have been entrusted with all the responsibilities of PG and UG seat selections of whole of India. That is CSAB, CCMT, CMNI, and DASA quota. Because normally it is given to 4 NITs as a distribution, but we are done in 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. So the ministry found that we are more comfortable with the students, parents, as well as the NIC, that is National Informatics Centers. So they have chosen us. The main thing is we need all alumni support. I think Dr. Pawan Kalla might have floated one portal. Whatever you have, 1 day's salary, 1 month's salary, or whatever you feel like, you can just put into that portal money, which will be coming to the institute only. It goes into revenue generation of institute. That is most important because now government is not funding NITs and IITs also. But IIT's corpus fund is already big and their alumni support is very huge. You all know if somebody is from IIT. But the same system has not been carried out in any of the NIT system, not only in MNIT. Other NITs also are suffering. Now we have to be the leaders for that also, so that the alumni support will be more in the development activities of research and other students' activities. Now 94 batch has already given some 67 lakhs collected, and they want a badminton hall to be built, and construction is under process, 4 courts, and they also want to fund for the scholarship of the students and other things, details. So if every batch are combined, like in Kannada we have hani kudidre alla, means drop by drop it can be an ocean. So that is the main concern for us, because As I told, the government is not funding us. They are giving us loan. It's called HIFA loan, Higher Funding Agency. HIFA, Higher Institute Funding Agency. That is, we have to take loan from some of the banks where the principal amount we have to pay and the interest will be paid by the government. So whether you do the activity or you do the building or not, the principal amount will be always the first installment. They cut the first year's principal amount and give. That is how our new hostel is going to be built out by name Aravali with 600 plus student capacity. For your kind information, we have a shortage of hostel also. We are not announcing hostels for the PG students. First come, first serve, all of them will not be getting. Since I have Acharya Bhavan, which is empty, 200 flats, I have converted 2 flats into ladies hostel, so that ladies staying outside will be a bit risky as far as my consideration is. Boys somehow, anyway, they can manage outside hiring some rooms and all. But ladies, it's very difficult to find a ladies hostel or PGs and all, or movement will be difficult. So I am providing hostels in the Acharya Bhavan. And we are, our ranking anyway, you know it, we were 70 when I took charge. Now we are 35, and this year we are planning to hope still further bring it to single digit. All the faculty are doing very well. They are very serious now in the research and consultancy activities. Research projects have been, a few crores of research projects has been come. There is a MOU between 20 plus universities where our faculty and students go to the other universities in the other countries, and their students come here. We facilitate them in our guest house. That's also going on. Overall, the ministry is very happy with our accounting system. We are in fact, they send a notice saying that except Jaipur NIT, this notice is for others, because you please send the account details, please send the vacancy details. Now I have announced vacancies for associate professor and 2 departments, assistant professor entry level, where maths department is very suffering. So it's going on, process is on, everybody is helping, all the faculty are very happy. I am a positive person. See, I want whatever thing to happen to everyone. Whatever the government gives, you allow them to use that fully. That is my attitude. I have been in the similar campus and in the similar environment of NITs. So I know each pattar janta hu ki kahan kya karna hai, kab karna hai, kyun karna hai. So with this, I am very friendly with the students also. The students feel at home around me. And there's no this thing I can mix with them. We have already built the 4-court table tennis infrastructure also near the Aurobindo hostel. And now we have a pathway done from VLTC building to the Aurobindo hostel. During a hot summer, it will be difficult. There's a parking facility in front of the VLTC. The importance of this is, okay, parking everyone has, but my parking is, it has a solar panels. So I'll be generating solar power. This is the first of its kind in any of the institute. Okay, small time they might have done, but now all my parking will be seeing in such a way that we are not cutting the trees. We are making the parkings where there is no shade. And I mean, what my calculation is, I can almost save 1,50,000 per month. And we have developed a new substation also, 33 kV substation. Anytime that will be inaugurated, we have our new Board of Governors Chairman, Dr. Ravindra Kumar Tyagi, who was a CMD of HAL. He is taking very keen interest, and every aspect he will be in touch with all of us and he will be monitoring us. It's a good advantage. Now, the main strength is the alumni. You are all spread all over the world. So please carry the flag of MNIT high in all the spaces, in kind and cash. In kind is we are ready to host the lecture series for our students, motivational speeches who are in a bigs. Everything we are, your alumni association here is doing very good. They are now in the mood of election, looks like. Everything is going on very smoothly, and I need your support. It's क्या बोलते हैं कि हाथी का बल मिलेगा alumni से. Students will come and go, faculty will be there for they do their job, non-teaching will do their job, but alumni are here to stay. मेरे लिए हाथी का बल मिलेगा, आपका साथ मिलेगा तो. नमस्कार, thank you, enjoy your evening. Chennai and Puducherry chapter. Welcome the chapters to the main chapter, and yeah, goodbye all the alumni.
Thank you, sir. What do you think of our Know Your Alumni series, sir?
That will be good, very good. You know, that is what we are connecting people, like our Prime Minister has connected one India, one digital or something, one India. Mine is one MNIT, one my NIT, MNIT.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Very kind of
Namaskar,
you.
namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, we would like to introduce Seema ji to you. Just please stay on, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
Seema,
have interacted many times. In fact, I have gone to college. He has come to Chennai. He knows. I suppose he remembers.
Yes, 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 madam. You came for that our ring presentation ceremony, of course, very much.
Yes.
That's what I gave chance to a fellow alumni to introduce you to me. Very kind of you. I think your husband is also with you there in the same department.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, here, as I am very fond of saying, when we think of we only had principal at that time, and when we think of the principal of the college, it's like a very scary figure. The principal, you need to interact with the principal. If only you have done some major disciplinary activity, you have to be removed from the college or rusticated from the college. So I still have that, some kind of a fear in my heart.
I'm different. You might have found out that, no?
When I think about the
I'm wearing the
director
t-shirt which is given by Patna chapter. No, see, I'm in the same system. No, I'm from NIT only. I've lived a life like what you have all lived. Even though my father was a professor in physics department, I used to spend most time in the hostel only. और हॉस्टल हमारा सूरतकल में तो बहुत नॉर्थ इंडिया ज्यादा लोग रहते थे, सो जो नॉर्थ इंडियन से बात करने का तरीका अलग रहता था, इसलिए मेरा हिंदी भी इम्प्रूव हो चुका है. Even though my mother tongue is Kannada, my Hindi is also very well improved, and इधर आने के बाद और भी ज्यादा इम्प्रूव हो गया.
Yes, Seema wanted to tell you something. I think यही बताना था, Seema, you wanted to share with them that he used to be scared of the director or the principal. Thank you, sir, for having such a friendly face with all.
But nowadays students are not scared of me. They want to talk to me wherever they meet me. I stop. Okay, बोलो क्या होना है? सर खाना ठीक नहीं है, तो खाना ठीक नहीं रहेगा. 4 साल खाना ठीक नहीं रहेगा. आपको तपस्या करना है, meditation करना है. You are not come here to do picnic. Somehow we have to be with them, talk in their language. No, they'll be very happy. अगर आप प्रिंसिपल गिरी दिखाओगे, डायरेक्टर गिरी दिखाओगे, तो वो भी अपना बच्चे गिरी दिखाएंगे. My principle is like be like a Roman in Rome, be like student with the students. That's all. But have a control on their academics and their other activities. प्यार से समझाओ ना, वो भी बच्चे हैं, हम भी थे ऐसे पहले. I think you are hearing me.
Yes, sir.
That is my motto. मैं जो भी वो प्यार से समझाता हूँ लोगों को, boys or girls, it is same for me.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, please stay with us, sir. If it is possible, you please stay with us.
I'll try.
Seema, we were talking about how you moved from the north to the south, and then how you were coping up with the language and the family and work issues. Another question, how did engineering actually help you in your IPS?
This is also one of the favorite questions they ask in the civil services interview also. So that you're an engineer and you're switching over to the services administration, how this is going to help. I think the engineering degree in general, any engineering for that matter, probably develops your logical thinking, analysis of a problem, the steps to plan and take action. So that is a general capacity that got developed in engineering, which has helped me throughout my service. Say, for example, if we are planning a VIP bandobast, I remember once when I was a DIG of Coimbatore range, I think Congress president had visited Erode. And she was changing her program by the hours. And you know, these people are high security VVIPs, and we need to make a lot of arrangements. You just can't allow, and there is a huge crowd. So sometimes they'll say she is coming via, you know, she's landing at Bangalore, taking the road and coming to Erode. Sometimes they'll say she's coming to Coimbatore by flight, and there she's coming by road. Then sometimes they'll say she's coming by helicopter and landing at Erode. While it is all there, like we are standing there waiting for her to arrive. So because of that, you know, some kind of a block diagram kind of an approach that we can understand. So you can just move this block here. You can remove this strength from here and deploy it in the route, this route, that route. So that clarity which comes with the studying engineering, that I felt that was useful in every field of the work that I was doing. Even by this, that is, we have cracked certain exams or done very well. So when you think of fighting the cases, or you think of, you know, fighting the criminals, so we tell ourselves that if the criminal can do this, obviously we are better than the criminal. No, we can crack the crime. We can fight it out in the court. The lawyer.
Yeah. That's a nice word.
We have a better intelligence, so we can fight it out in the court. We have the power to, I mean, the law is towards our side. Everything is our side. They are completely out of the purview of everything. So that confidence comes to fight it out, because you have gone through one of the toughest courses that are available, and you have done well in them. Apart from that, engineering, that is I did in electronics, and there was a bit of computers, there was a bit of programming, very little, of course. Say, for example, we did the Fortran was a language that we programmed in. One paper was there. Then there was a Microsoft, what is that? Microprocessor programming.
Microprocessor.
6068, 8085. These were the two microprocessors that we learned the programming on. You won't believe, even this little experience of programming helped me. I was working in, she read out also, SCRB, State Crime Records Bureau, which also takes care of the electrification, this computerization of the Tamil Nadu Police. So we had a project, it's actually a nationwide project called CCTNS, Crime and Criminal Tracking System and Networks. So I was in charge of it, and I think I could take it forward very well, because I had that some basic knowledge of the programming and this thing. So we could devise few things. Say, for example, so this crime and criminal tracking network and systems, all the FIRs are being registered in the police stations only on the system now. As you know, the computers, as the flight tickets or train tickets are booked, and so it's nothing like a manual FIR. The FIR is when some complainant comes to the police station, they make every entry into this application. So, and this is then immediately put on the website, Tamil Nadu Police website, and there are a lot of facilities that the police and the citizens have. In that, I wanted to add one facility, that is the road accident. When the road accidents take place, people need to claim insurance, and they run from pillar to post to get those documents that are required. So since there was a little bit of background of programming, so I thought that we can make a system in such a way that the people have to upload, that is, the police station has to upload the documents like FIR, wound certificate, insurance, and such other details to the onto the website from the police station. And they will not be able to lay the charge sheet in this case unless and until they have uploaded all the details. So these small things that you can think of, which ultimately makes a system foolproof. So definitely it has helped a lot in general and in specific instances also.
Very true. The logical mindset, we are able to handle everything with in a logical manner, and that has helped in different professions, including police. Very nice examples, Deep. What about, see, you have a very soft personality, yes? You speak so soft. How did you manage in the police with this kind of personality?
This was, yes, of course, this was a thing to be seen. You know, as I told you when I joined, also, I wanted to see how I would fare in the organization called police. In fact, my family members, like my brother, my father, they had some reservation that she will become, Seema will become very rough, very sort of her language will become probably abusive, or she will be not behaving in a feminine manner, or she'll behave like how men behave or whatever. But then I think there is a slight misconception about being tough, and you can be very soft. There is no need for a police person to be rough, to be bad, to be abusive. Toughness is entirely different. Being tough is you stand, you take a stand and stick to that stand. Don't budge. You don't mind what will be the consequences. That is called toughness. Not that because you have a lathi in the hand and you are beating people left, right, and center, or because you have learned few abusive words and you are shouting at people or you are misbehaving with people. People should. People should listen to you because what you say is worth listening, not because you can, browbeat them, because you can harm them, you can punish them. So these kinds of things became clear because I was always very certain that I wanted to be uh, a good human being, a caring human being, a compassionate human being. If at all I can say, things like being kind and courageous is had been my goal. I do not know how I have succeeded in that, but in fact, initially when people would tell me in the district SP, as a district SP, where when I started, I was in 96, I was 30 years old. So some of my subordinates, who are into in the habit of that typical policing work, they'll say, "Madam, nobody listens to you, nobody is scared of you," because they are not scared of you, because you are not punishing anyone. So I said, but I don't want people to be scared of me. And I don't believe in this carrot and stick policy that carrot and stick policy ultimately works on the principle of fear and greed. So you want people to be fearful of you, and you, because you will punish them, and you operate upon their greed by rewarding, luring them for a reward. I said my people should work because they are supposed to work, it's their duty, and because when you get a good result, it is so satisfying. The result, the reward of that is the result of the work, that you have done a very satisfying work, that you have been able to help somebody, that you have cracked a case, that you have solved a case, that you have arrested a criminal, or you have done a bandobast very well, where people were safe, secure, and put to the least inconvenience. These are the rewards, not because some 500 rupees we will hand over to you at the end of it. So somehow, that my philosophy is like this. They got actualized during my tenure as a district SP. I also realized several other things. Say, for example, maintaining law and order is not because ऐसा नहीं है कि आपकी लाठी है तभी आपके उसमें law and order होगा. Because your word carries weight, because people believe in you, because people have trust in you, because what you say you will deliver, because what you say you will do. You walk your talk. So like that, there were instances, for example, in the district where I remember particularly there was some water sharing issue. So there is a pipeline which is going from one place to another place. And the end users are only getting water, but the pipeline is going through certain other villages which also have water scarcity. So what they will do, those villagers where the pipeline is going, they will illegally tap the water. So then the water at the end will not be available. So when this happens, the end villagers will agitate. Then somebody will go and get this tapping closed. So these people will not get water. So these people will agitate. So likewise, mati or madri agitate பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. So then I went one day when the agitation became a little more to the people who were tapping it illegally. So I told them, see, this is, I understand that you need water, but this is not the way of doing it. We let us get something from the district collector or district administration for you. And they were sitting on the road for some time. So I said, if you do not vacate it within whatever, 10-15 minutes, we will take a strong action. So just saying this, because they know that if I am saying something, I will be able to carry it out both ways. That is the promise to get their problems rectified and the promise to take action, because they are on the wrong and they have no right to block the road for this. So 10 minutes later, we could hear the normal traffic moving. So I have always felt that, the force is required when your word does not carry weight anymore. Otherwise, if people have faith and trust in your what you are saying, they will listen to you and there is no need to use any force. And another thing I also felt is, see, I am a normal person, normal woman, I can say. I cannot fight, like this. So if I utilize my authority to beat up somebody, and supposing by any chance he beats me up back, so can I take it? I can't. And I cannot beat definitely a very powerful person. I am only going to beat some very Tamil Solopona Pavama person. So why beat that the Pavama person also? So there is no necessity to get into these kind of activities of this thing. And I'm happy to say that I think I've survived very well with my kind of policies, which have got strengthened over the years. That for your kind information, I do not know one abusive word. I never use it in my language. And if at all, I have become more, softer and this thing over the years. And as I told you, I've survived very well in this department called police.
Excellent, excellent, Dee. We are very proud of you. As you rightly said, people listen to you because they find what you are saying is worth listening to. And it's very well said that you can be polite and yet assertive. And when people start believing in your competence and when you show results, people listen to you not because you are soft or tough or carrot or stick, just because they believe and they trust you and they trust your competence, they trust your decisions, and then they follow what you are saying. And they will definitely support you in whatever decisions that you take. Thank you so much. That was a great inspiration. What is any particular contributions to society or profession that you would highlight in this long career? You would have made many, but due to shortage of time, if any one or two such instances you can share with us.
Actually, the time just passed away. I don't know if it's and you haven't said, I think I haven't said much. I do not know what to say as a one thing, but let us just take one example, or maybe even an easier example. So I joined as IG Railways, IG Railway Police, that is. So you're in charge of what they call the GRP, Government Railway Police, basically the property and life of the people traveling through the railways. So before I joined also, I had an idea that a lot of people die on the tracks. So only when I joined, I realized that in a year, there were about 2,500 people dying on the tracks. Those who just cross the track and get run over by the trains. We don't realize the enormity when we are not, looking into those figures. And then can you believe it? Out of that, 800 or so people were unidentified. So it used to bug me a lot. It used to kind of really bother me that, Seema, you are in charge of the railway police here. Shouldn't you be doing something? So but there was no literally clue as to how to go about it. So I went and visited some places where people were crossing. In fact, I remember once I went to one local police station. A local train came and stopped. Everyone came out, nearly 400, 500 people. As a matter of routine, they just crossed the track and went to the other side. I almost got, some kind of a nervousness as to what am I going to do with these people. They take it as a matter of habit to cross the tracks. And because we are all engineers, we can understand how dangerous it is to cross the tracks, because first of all, you're not supposed to cross the tracks. It is not a road where somebody is expecting you. On the road, at least you may walk whichever way you cross the road. Tracks are not meant for human beings. And the train has a huge inertia, M into V, whatever it is called now, M into V. So which will be like, it will hit you like this, and the impact will be very high. And we can't judge. So all those things were there. So I just started slowly and this thing, and we identified the most vulnerable spot, which was here between the Mampalam and Gindi, where about, I think, 10 to 12 accidents were taking place in a month. So I said, okay, let me start from one space, because there are some thousands of kilometers of railway line, and where people are dying like this. They are dying because they just don't care. It's like nobody is responsible other than themselves. So then we started taking small measures, like I actually deployed manpower to practically, with the ropes to prevent people from crossing. Then we undertook some studies with the help of the college students as to why this is, there could be, everywhere we can't make foot over bridges or road over bridges or things like that. And then in that study, some very interesting things came up. Say, for example, somewhere, there is a unauthorized auto stand just outside the railway station. I'm talking about the local trains, which Chennai and big cities, they survive a lot on those local trains. So people are taking that unauthorized auto, so they will cross the tracks because that is no pathways there, nothing is available. So that if you remove that auto stand which is unauthorized, some of the people who are crossing in this place, they will not do. Then we saw that one of the subway is so dirty and does not have lights, and so people are not using it. So all it requires is to get it clean, have the lights put so that people use the subway and don't cross the track. So like that, some very small measures were there, which were not like capital intensive measures. Then I had a very good cooperation with the railway officers, the DRMs and the people down the line. With their help, we went station by station and we saw whatever could be done. There is a wall which goes along the entire Chennai city, which is broken in the middle. For people, they break it to cross over. And once you cross over from somewhere in the wall, obviously you're going to walk over the tracks to reach the place to catch the train. So like that, several small such measures were taken and they were replicated across the state. And I am happy to announce that in the year that followed after my being there, about 200 less deaths were reported. So I do not know who are the people who we saved, because we can't say who did not die. But the statistics show, because there was no other variable, that the deaths only increase from previous year to next year, because the population is increasing, the trains, there are more trains running and things like that. But there was a clear reduction of 200 deaths in the years. So that was a matter of great satisfaction. So like that, there are few examples actually across over my career where something which I saw which bothered me a lot, and then I somehow figured out what to do about it and could do something, and ultimately reduce some human misery and do something good.
That's a great humanitarian service, Simadi, and all your I think you have handled it in the combination of the technical and human skills, and in a very courageous manner. Is there Natarajan, you want to say something?
Yeah, we have the time extended. So if there are any questions, we can definitely go ahead, and then we can open to the audience. You can finish whatever.
Okay, so the last two questions I have for that we had planned. You have also learned and grown. I mean, you did a lot during your service, but what is this process of your learning and growth that you experienced and you would like to share with the fellow MNITians, and your message to the fellow MNITians?
Into this is in the line of what I shared. You know, as I for the last, I think now nearly 10 to 15 years, this is the thing, because you are heading one or the other unit. Say, for example, I headed Railway Police and I headed this SCRB. And what I have seen is if we at senior positions try to take up things and try to find solutions as to how, with a specific objective, like here, I used to feel that, you know, as Railway Police, I told you, can I not reduce these deaths? In fact, one more thing that took place, I told you, 800 of them would be unidentified out of 2,500. Just imagine the percentage. You know, you feel. Again, I right now my thinking process has gone more into the Tamil. Like, இவங்களுக்கு யாரும் இருக்க மாட்டாங்களா, அம்மா அப்பா யாரும் இருக்க மாட்டாங்களா, எப்படி ஒரு 800 people நம்ம கண்டுபிடிக்காம இருக்கிறோம். So how is it possible that we are not able to trace the identity of these 800 people? Because the deaths are so many. In a day, you can see, 300 and what to Tinching Atharat in a job is about 8 people or so are dying per day. So people are also, they have no time to do any investigation or something, that minimum work. So that time I used the CCTNS, which was already there, to track and identify, because people would be reported as missing. And then we started comparing on the computer itself. You are sitting and just trying to compare who went missing and who is dead. And by just seeing their, other things like the date of reporting versus the date of death, male, female, the age, because you cannot be dead before you went missing, isn't it? You can go missing today, you can die tomorrow. So these simple logics, we ourselves decided that this is how we can trace a person. So you go missing today, the deaths which are reported subsequently only have to be seen. If you are a male when you went missing, you can't become a female when you died. So like that, narrowing down the data which was already available, we could trace several people. Like, I just formed very small teams consisting of 1 SI, 2 constables, 3-4 teams, and we could trace about 150 or so people. So that means, though we are not bringing this good news to the families that the so-and-so has died, but obviously we are not the cause of the death, and at least we are bringing it closer to their search for their loved ones. So what I'm trying to say by sharing these things is that, especially in public service like ours, there's a lot of such opportunities to do good beyond what is basically expected of you. There is few things that are expected, but in the course of what you are doing, you can do a lot more. For example, I would also say in this SCRB, when I was there, I was sharing with you that I was in charge of computerization, e-governance and all. So, when I just joined, I remember somebody of my batchmate in police had remarked, "Oh, you are in this looking after CCTV, but CCTVs doesn't work, because it's a kind of a government kind of a software." So that something arose in my heart that I will make it work. It's like, how dare you say that it doesn't work? This in Tamil Nadu, I will make CCTNS work. Not only work, like hum kehte na, ye chalega nahi, ye daudega bhi nahi, balki ye udega. So that kind of a thing. And then, why is there any system? The system is to help the policemen in doing their job well, better, in a better manner. Without CCTNS and with CCTNS, it is there to render services to the citizens, because police is not considered to be a very citizen-friendly service. So can we extend some services to the citizens, which are, very useful? So then I thought of several services. One of them, which got a very big hit, is police verification report. We worked on it quite hard and thinking about how to make it really, really foolproof. And we put it on the police platform on the website, and police verification became so easy. Before that, you can understand by one incident. One of my officers got a call from somebody. They were trying to get the police verification done. He did not know her. She was my additional SP. But somehow she helped them in getting the police verification. That man probably had to run around from pillar to post and was trying to get a police verification for some job. So much so that those who understand Tamil, I will tell for them, our sonare, madam, So she told that we are trying to develop an online platform for police verification. So that gentleman told her, Madam, நீங்க இப்படி பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா உங்களோட நான் சிலை Marina Beachல வைப்பேன். So he was so fed up of the kind of services that we were giving offline that he thought being an online service will be such a great thing that it deserves a statue on the Marina Beach. And then I am again happy to say that we launched that service successfully. It's a paid service actually. And we charge about 500 rupees per this thing. And the 15 days, we ensure that it reaches in the email of the person. And that it's being sold like a hot cake actually. And so we also make a lot of money out of it. We make the money and we have made some things with the government, arrangements with the government that we get the money back to the police department for development of IT infrastructure. In fact, I generally don't care about earning money and things like that. So my husband used to tell me, Seema, who will say you're not a good businesswoman, you're making money out of the police services. So it has been a win-win situation for both the citizens and the police. And then we are now almost like making about 7 to 8 crores per year, which is good enough to purchase a lot of computers and, provide for connectivity and things like that. And at every step of it, I was told that it is not possible. They'll say, government never gives back the money what you earn. If that was the case, the commercial taxes department will get back all the money that they earn. So it's not like that. I said, what is the harm in trying? Let us try and see. Likewise, when I was going for this proposal that allow us easy access to money. What happened? Any problem?
No. It's
Okay. So allow us easy access to the money that we have earned. Again, people were there, you can't ask this, the government, they have their own procedures and things like that. I said, no, let us try. Why not try in the first place? So if you ask me, this is my learning. This is my message to my fellow in my MNITians that we are all in the, now highest echelons of the position in whichever segment of department or field of life we are working in. And there is a lot that can be done. It's, the organization, how we define our role matters a lot. Like now, actually, there was probably a small mistake on my part in giving my biodata. Right now, I'm in charge of what we call the headquarters. That is, I am in charge of the procurement and finances for the police department. Here, I have defined my job as a very simple thing. My job is to buy useful things for the entire police force, all segments of police force, useful things for the entire force. So not just the, so then I will necessarily take care of a lot of neglected units are there. Nobody takes care of them. Nobody cares for them. So we, by being a little proactive, by taking care of people, by, marrying several things like technology with humanity and things like that, and taking help of others. Like I told you, while I was in railway police, taking help of the railway department, which will be very cooperative. We extend our hands. Here also, other departments like the administration, of course, the secretariat, the IAS officers, the other officers in other departments. It is possible to do a lot of good things around. And so that is the thing. And if everyone, all of us try, I think instead of blaming the system, instead of blaming others as to what is not happening, it's all so bad, it's all that, this thing. In fact, allow me to share one more incident. In one of the social events in my family a few years back, everyone was sharing, some of the other bad experiences, how things are so bad, how systems are so bad. I just couldn't take it after a while. I said, all of you are in some positions. Can't you narrate one incident that you would have done something good to somebody? Why only everyone is sharing the negative things? So this is if we just change our attitude and see what good, what positive we can do in the position that we are sitting in. I'm sure all my contemporaries or even much junior, because we have almost come to the end of the service, must be in very senior positions. And the higher you are at the pyramid, the more is the influence that you exert, and a little bit of your effort can result in a huge impact to the people you are supposed to be serving. So this is, I can say, is the conclusion that I have to share with all of you.
That's amazing. What you are saying is that we can, in whatever capacity that we work, and regardless of what is happening, good or bad, the perception that people have, we can make a difference in whatever that is, the work that comes to us. And with your polite and caring, compassionate, humble nature, and we are very proud that you came, you had done your engineering from MNIT. You have contributed a lot to the police services in your own unique way. We are so proud of it, Dee. Thank you for that inspiring message and inspiring words and sharing of those wonderful experiences in different ways. You also combined the technical, what you learned, and how logically you have handled different situations and how you solved different problems in your career. You also shared with us how you have managed your work and family life. By the way, your Tamil is so good now. You started with that, you didn't know a word of Tamil, and now you're speaking such good Tamil. I think most of the people here have understood everything, and it didn't look like somebody who's a non-Tamilian is speaking that. Thank you so much. Can we open the floor for some questions? I request to please raise your hand. Ravin, you wanted to ask something? Ravin Ranjit.
Madam Indura, I'll take you, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. We are truly blessed with your
Thank you so much, sir.
presence, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Madam, I have a question actually to Seema, madam. Let me.
Sure.
Ma'am, your husband, Mr. Vishwanathan, is is a high-profile person himself. He was recently the Chennai City Commissioner. Very tough position, and there is a lot of pressure. You are also in a very high position where there is a lot of pressure. So both of you are in such a position. We have seen doctor couples, we have seen engineering couples, we have seen couples who work in IT, who are into different professions. How is this lifestyle, ma'am? What is that you do? How do you manage? How do you share with each other what you go through? There will be tough times, right? It's not going to be rosy all the time. How do you manage? And can you please share something about that?
Actually, in a way, being in the same service is also very helpful, because we have, he can understand, I can understand what he is going through or what are his compulsions. And at the same time, you can't, unnecessarily make it bigger than what it is. So that is also there. But other than that, you don't know. At home, you're just like, whatever, I'm there, he's there, and children are there. At home, nobody is an officer. If you look at me at my home, you won't even know whether I'm a working woman, leave apart being a police officer. So, and then, between two of us, we have over the years made certain nice, boundaries. Like, he doesn't interfere in my work. I definitely don't interfere in his work. Because if we start interfering, there is no end. And so much so that if someone comes for a recommendation for me, like they will approach him and he's supposed to tell me, recommend his case, then he will say, this is a sure way of your thing not getting done. Because if it is worth doing, she will do it automatically. And if it is not worth doing, if you bring pressure, then if at all there was a little chance of getting it done, it won't be done. So likewise, he was city commissioner. If I were interfering in his work, it would have been extremely bad. And nobody approaches us for each other's this thing, because thankfully both of us are also known not to be like, yielding to that is, the thing is, if you have a merit, you don't need to bring any recommendation. And if you do not have a merit, by and large, whatever recommendation you bring also, it is not going to take place. So why bring in recommendation itself? So like that, it has evolved very well. And I think another thing I may like to say here, it would sound very conservative or whatever, but then I still treat, family as a unit, and my husband, I treat it as the head of the family. So it helps in smooth running of the family. And he is also very respectful of my work. So it's like a very subtle, this thing. Nobody is like asserting and, saying, okay, I am also equal to you. I am also an IPS officer or something like that. It doesn't have to be told that way. At home, he's the husband. At home, I'm the wife. And we have a very understanding, affectionate, and respectful relationship. And children are also, actually, children never occurred. I wanted to say something, but somehow we just ran out of time. Fine.
Please,
Does it satisfy your question?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. You can share about your children as well. We have time, ma'am. In fact, there is a question from Mr. Vaidyanathan. He is asking whether your children they are also pursuing IPS. Oh, yeah.
No. My children are not interested. In fact, my son, he went to do his undergrad in US, and now my daughter is also going. They are not interested in this thing. But this I wanted to say is that I have always looked after my children as a regular mother. I have taught them actually till I taught my son almost entirely, excepting in 12th standard when he could not. I mean, I could not manage his maths because there were certain things which I couldn't handle. And my daughter also mostly I taught until the physics became too tough for me. I said she will not get good marks because of me. And we are very close. Children are very affectionate, and they have a lot of this thing in me. I would share. I have actually taken my son's permission to share this because he's a grown-up man now. That is when he was about 8 or 9 years old. Somehow my husband asked him, his name is Harshvardhan, Harsha, what kind of girl will you marry? So he said, Appa, I will not marry. So, it's interesting to hear from the child of that age. Why would you not marry my husband? I said, Appa, there are no nice girls. No, there was only one nice girl you have already married. So I still consider it as it's fine. It just came out of the mouth of an 8-year-old boy, but somewhere it shows how much he, respects or loves his mother. And I used to threaten my children with only this much. You can see I cannot be harsh, and I have never been harsh to them. That I'll say, beta, if you don't behave well, people will say I've not brought you up well. So he says, my son says, still you're threatening me with the same thing with me. And I'm still behaving because you threaten me like this. So, that is the very affectionate and this relationship that I have with my children. So this is how it's going on.
Great, ma'am. That is really fantastic, to hear that. So nice of you. I have one person raising his hand. I'll just request him to ask a question. The name is not seen there. Yeah, it's given as iPhone. I don't know who it is. Can you, sir?
Let them ask.
This is me. Can you hear me? This is me, T.S. Ranawat, 78 to 83 batch.
okay.
Right?
Hear you.
Seema ji, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
We can hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Please.
Hello.
Bataiye, I can hear you.
Yes. So Seema ji, right. So Seema ji, you said you are from you have studied in Udaipur, and since I am from Udaipur, I would like to ask you, what do you miss the most from Udaipur regarding about Udaipur?
Actually, I was there only for a year. We went in the 11th standard, and I studied in that one Jagdish Chowk school. So there was this beautiful place, of course, and there was a lot of places of tourism. So it's a beautiful place, even to recommend to anyone who wishes to visit this thing. Like my children have not yet been to, and now the children are grown up. I would very much love to go with them. So that's it.
You still you can talk in Mewari still?
नहीं मैं एक ही साल रही हूँ उदयपुर में. मेरे फादर ट्रांसफरेबल.
Okay.
Right. अब तो मेरे मुंह से तमिल ही निकलती है.
The local language of Udaipur, Mewar, is Mewari language. That's why I said.
नहीं अगर राजस्थानी बोलने की कोशिश करूँ तो भी तमिल ही निकलती है मुझसे.
अच्छा.
Hi, sir. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to have any question? Let me keep.
I think the General Secretary of MNITJ posted a question. Rakesh, are you still there? He posted a question that how you can help the alma mater.
Yeah, that is one thing. Before that, I have Mr. G.K. Raju. He's asking, we'll come to that, ma'am, because that's a question for the alma mater. I'm just asking Mr. G.K. Raju to go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks, madam. I think very happy to hear how you have adopted technology for the public service, right? Especially bringing citizens within reach using portals and others. So going forward, of course, technology, of course, is playing a big role everywhere. And I think all of us are passionate about it and in some way or other impacted by it. So where do you see things like, say, artificial intelligence and other technologies playing a role in the police services?
All the technologies will be kind of tailored towards improving the policing. And you will be surprised how many of the police officers are actually engineers.
Yeah.
The IPS definitely has many. In fact, from our own college, three of us are right now in we're all contemporaries. Mr. Sanjay Arora, he was 1 year senior to me, myself, and then Sanjay, we used to call him Sanjay Nag then, he became Sanjay Mathura afterwards. Three of us from the same time we were in the college, and three of us are in IPS in Tamil Nadu. So many engineers are here in the higher echelons. Constabulary, if you take interviews of sub-inspectors and all, everyone is only engineer. In fact, I was asking when I was part of the interview, but now these days nobody does arts and science. It has become like that. So there is a great potential to absorb technology, and obviously technology does so, like facial recognition and all. We provided one mobile app for on the CCTNS platform. You click the photo, and you find out whether this person is already available in your police record. So just imagine how much need of so-called third degree and this thing. We will tell him if this is your name. He may say some other name. So like that, technology is definitely there. Technology will be absorbed, and I'm sure there is enough manpower or enough talent available in the police department to absorb it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else has any question? We can take 1 or 2 questions further.
Yeah, I have a question, Natarajan.
So please go ahead, sir.
Simaji, see, with the installation of security cameras in Chennai in many vantage positions, has the crime rate come down or have the criminals been tracked with that?
This crime rate definitely would have come down, though I do not know recorded crimes, whether they have come down or not, because so many crimes don't get reported or don't get registered. That is one thing, because it is such a deterrence, when you go, I can say it is that installation of CCTV cameras serves multiple purposes. One is the sense of security. When you see that the camera is there, you can walk very comfortably in that street. That is if you are the citizen. If you are a wrongdoer, you will be very much deterred from doing something wrong. When something happens and you go to report a case, the police feels very confident that by seeing the CCTV footage, they will be able to crack the case. And I think it has become much easier for the police to solve the cases now. So I think it has improved the scenario in the overall manner, and this is being used as a very effective, I would say, mechanism to now control the crimes in all the other cities.
Seemaji, Mukundan here. Now, in continuation to Sridhar's question, this old beat constable you feel is redundant, or some old timers still feel that system helps? With so much of technology, do you think you need beat constable, or that's a redundancy?
I think whatever technology brings in, human element will still be required. So we just cannot do away without the human beings. And you can reposition them where it is required more, because always there is a huge requirement of security. So where you are sending people the beats, you send it where there is still there will always be need, as I told you. So you reposition your resources based upon the availability of the technology. Definitely, beat constables will be required. They gather intelligence, they talk to people, they watch, they see things, they apply their mind, and they can catch the person right there, red-handed, if something is happening. So many other things will be required if machines have to do this.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much.
I think Ashish wants to ask something.
Okay.
We can take one question actually.
Ashish Agarwal wants to have something.
So Ashish Agarwal is asking.
Mute.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything.
Unmute.
He has to unmute himself.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Yes, please. Good evening.
Yeah, it is very heartening to talk to you. Being an IPS officer, you gave such a candid talk and such frankly you are speaking, and it feels so great that we are part of the same institution. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Ashish.
Thank you, Ashish. And yeah, that's the last question. Mr. Ashok Srivatsava wants to ask a question. So with that, we will, Mr. Ashok, yeah.
Okay, madam, thank you very much for giving us your experience of police service. In fact, I'm 1970 batch metallurgy department. I'm much senior to you. I just want to ask you one question. Please don't mind it. What effort police department is taking to see that their constable and inspectors and other officers keep themselves fit? Because we find most of the police constables unfit. They are not able to carry out their work easily, promptly, which they are supposed to do. So, what is there any regular training which you impart to, or is there a mandatory for them to take to do exercise or to maintain their weight? And if they do not do it, then do have any bar so that they will not be promoted to last grade? Just I want to know, because they are not as fit as our armed soldiers are there.
No, I would say this, that actually, unfortunately, it is like this only, that they are their health is neglected. There is a huge difference between the armed forces and the police forces. Police is doing every day the work, day in and day out, and somewhere the exercise gets neglected in that, because somebody goes for night rounds, as we were just talking about, beats. Early morning there will be some duty, something. So like that, it is this somewhere gets relegated in the background. Whereas armed forces, thankfully there are no aggressions taking place and should not take place. So they get a lot of time to exercise and all. It should be done, I understand, and then people try in their own way. But somehow the nature of duties is like that individuals like people like us, we do undertake regular exercises, but then the people down the line somewhere they miss out on that.
Oh, but police department can enforce to their employees to maintain good health. We cannot say that time is not there, or there can be some certain restriction that if you are not healthy, you are not maintaining that level, then you will not be promoted to next grade. I think that if that is done, then they will be forced to do it. And it is not, we cannot say that police department employees do not require physical fitness, because they also have to chase notice people. They have to run. Sometimes they have to work throughout the night, day and night. Their job, I think, is much more tough than the job of armed forces. So they have to keep themselves physically fit.
No, there is no denying of the fact what you are saying, that they need to be fit. I'm just saying that there are compulsions, there are difficulties in that. So one is trying to balance, and that's it. Definitely, it's a very, very, desired goal or desired requirement. But there are difficulties in achieving it. That's all I'm.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think, Seema, like you have gracefully executed your entire service. You have so humbly and gracefully accepted our invitation and spared this valuable time with all of us at this MNITJ inaugural event of the Know Your Alumni series. I personally want to thank you so much for all the meetings that we did prior to this event, that comfort that you created for conducting this event so successfully, and for taking the questions of all our fellow participants so warmly and answering and sharing with us so candidly about your experiences and how you feel and how you think. I'm sure all of the people who have attended this, all our fellow MNITians, would have learned something from it. And we are seeing the comments here. People are very happy. They are appreciating your kind words and your time and sharing of your experience with us. Since our time is, we are already close to 7:30. So we would have loved to continue to talk with you on and on and on. And but we have to close. So I am inviting our General Secretary, Natarajan Raman, to give a vote of thanks. Natu, please.
Yeah, thank you, Indu ma'am. It was a great session, ma'am, to be quite honest. And I would like to first of all thank our director, Professor Uday Kumar sir, for taking time and then gracing this important occasion. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind support. I would like to thank our Parent Alumni Association from MNIT Jaipur. They have been really supportive. Thank you so much. And our wonderful seniors and friends, it's great to have all of you here on a Saturday evening, and then the kind of questions and the warmth that we could see here, the warmth, amazing actually. Thank you so much to each and every one of you, and of course to my fellow MNIT alumni, Tamil Nadu Puducherry Association members, our patrons, Sridhar sir, we are not here without you, and Siva sir, you both are the main reason, especially the reason why we are here. Means a lot. So thank you so much from bottom of the heart. And Mukundan sir. I think there are a lot of people like behind the scenes, like Kumar Pal sir, and so many people who keep going this association well. I thank each and every one of you. And then my members, Ranjit, and then Ranjit boss, and then Ravin. I thank each one of you. And of course, it has been a great evening. Sima ma'am, I think quite a lot of things we have learned. I have people joining from various parts of the country today, from the world today. We have people from Singapore and abroad, US and other places who are logged in. I think all of us learned a lot today, ma'am. You are so humble. It's a great privilege for us to have you here. Thank you so much, ma'am. I leave the floor open to Indu ma'am back again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natu. I especially thank each member who has joined us today, who has participated in making this event a grand success. I thank all the MNITians from the bottom of my heart. Especially I thank our TN Pondicherry Chapter Association and our patrons and mentors and all the team and the office bearers. I also thank the Parent Association, MNIT Jaipur. I think the president could not join, but the General Secretary has joined us. I thank Director MNIT. And we hope the success of this initiative will actually be, if this series continues from here, we have more and more people. So next time, instead of me, it will be somebody else who will moderate the session. We will have another alumni. I thank you, Ashok sir, Ashish, everyone who asked the questions and made it more lively. So for the time being, I think we'll say that it gives us an opportunity to meet, and it gives us an opportunity to know our alumni. We have made a very good beginning, thanks to God. We had planned for this to happen, and it has actually happened with your gracious presence, ma'am. I think with this, I think if it is possible to unmute, I do this in my college, we can give a round of applause to ma'am. Please, all of you, if you can unmute and give a round of
इसके लिए हम सभी आपके आभारी हैं। इंदु राव और हमारे कम्युनिटी के प्रेसिडेंट सोलंकी जी, राकेश यादव जी, उदय कुमार जी, मैं आप सभी का हार्दिक धन्यवाद और साधुवाद देता हूं कि सीमा दीदी से हम पहले भी मिले हैं और इनसे कभी मदद भी मांगी है किसी अलुमनाई के बच्चे की एडमिशन के लिए। आपने हमेशा अपने मदद को आगे बढ़ाया है, हम सब लोगों का साथ दिया है। हम सभी आपसे प्रेरित हैं और आपसे सीखने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। हमारे बीच में आए, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ, धन्यवाद देता हूँ।
Excuse me, one more thing. For the last year, जो कोविड के टाइम में पुलिस वालों ने किया है जो तमिलनाडु में, उसके लिए once again thanks. जो 1 year में पुलिस वालों ने अपने जान पे खेल के पूरे तमिलनाडु को संभाला है, उसके लिए once more thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. We'll catch up in the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
One minute.
Namaskar.
Natu, can you please mute everyone? Our president of MNITJ Association, Devraj Solanki ji, has also joined. So I am requesting someone from the MNIT Jaipur chapter to please say a few words before we conclude. Rakesh Yadav ji, आपने लिखा है कि President Solanki boss has also joined. Yeah, आप बोल दीजिए something. You please tell us for our Tamil Nadu Pondicherry chapter. Okay, so I think they have left. Just now I got a message from Rakesh. So I think we had a message that.
Hello, Induji.
Yeah,
Yes. Now unmuted.
Yes, yeah, please.
On behalf of Central Executive Committee, I am very much thankful to Seema boss for sparing its valuable time, and really very thankful to Induji and her full team of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry chapter for initiating this session series. And today is the first event of the series. We are waiting for so many more from Tamil Nadu Puducherry chapter, and I discussed with our president, and we are planning to make the Tamil Nadu Puducherry chapter as the nodal center for all the chapters for conducting such sessions. In future, we will talk on this also. So again, thank you very much for conducting this wonderful session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Seema, for your time.
I also want to thank Indu personally and especially, apart from the Alumni Association. In fact, she's so accomplished and distinguished, it's slightly intimidating to talk to her. I'm just graduate, it's always kind of, I mean, it looks very funny, but look at her qualifications, mind-boggling. I do not know what and how she managed to get so many degrees, so many accomplishments to her credit. This time is the same for all of us. So
Seemaji, there is going to be a reversal of roles. Induji is going to face your camera.
She's a good host. I may not do the job very well. So that is the fear I have. So anyway, it was really, I feel so proud to be a part of this association, to be, have come out of MREC. And that is, it's like what I am today has a lot to do with the fact that I went to MREC. So that much is there, that much is the contribution of college in our life. And to know that all of you are part of our life, part of my life is a very great feeling. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For so long.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just sign up now?
I think, yeah, the host can end the meeting.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm doing it now. Thank you.